is William Ray. Oh, that's, you see, when you go to the hospital, you have to get a real name. First name, you know. So this has happened to me scores of times. You know, I go to the hospital. I'm in Sigworth. We don't have Bud Sigworth. We have a Delwyn Sigworth. Okay.
My mom's name is Roxy. When my dad died, she had to change everything in her name, and she was refusing. You know, she was, I don't go Roxy, and nobody knows me as Roxy. Even the guy doesn't know me as Roxy. And the attorney saying, you have to do this. This is what is legal. You know, and then the attorney started laughing because she says, well, I am no Roxy.
I am no Roxy. Yeah, Roxy. All the Roxys were in burlesque shows.
Yeah. But this Roxy, she was named after a good Christian woman that everybody turned out. So she does.
All right. Okay, so now that we got that straight, give your real name.
It was by India.
Fill out stuff for the church. Okay. Now, here's where we are today. And Loretta isn't here, and she's the one to put this up. So, by the way, here's a time for another good lesson in theology. The Sunday you're going to miss in church is Satan has worked hard to get you to miss because there's something that God has for you on that particular Sunday that's going to make a hole in your theological. So, anyway, Satan works that. He knows what's going to be taught Sunday because he can look over my shoulder and see the notes. He can't enter your mind and know what's going on in there, but his demons can be everywhere else, and they can read and they can think, and so they know what's going to be taught on any given Sunday. And so the people out there need that. And so we work really hard to keep those people from coming on that Sunday. Now, so Loretta asked the question, so this is this is a prompting for Loretta said. When I was running through the big four-fold message of the book last week, and I got down to part 4, I phrased it this way: strong dependence on strong providence is required. And I've been going back and forth when I finish this syllabus, whether I should put sovereignty in there or not. But obviously, since Loretta asked the question, we need to do a little work on our understanding of providence and sovereignty as it relates to God. So that's what we're going to do today. And so if you want to take notes, I encourage you to do so. At least take some, so you write down the most important things that we want to write down. So you think about the providence of God and the sovereignty of God. And the one I used last week when Loretta asked, when I wasn't really, it's a good illustration of providence, though, about, there was Governor John Winthrop. He was the governor of Plymouth Bay Colony. We found the Indian corn. Now, I've read excerpts from his diary. They were quite interesting. In the providence of God, he delivered the Indian chiefs into our hands. And, Miles Standish managed to 3 of them before the whole episode got stopped. And in the providence of God, he delivered Indians' corn into our hands so that we didn't starve there. And so there's a point of view that would say, gosh, that's awful. Stole the Indians' corn and you killed the Indian chief. It was God who made all this happen. This for you specifically. That's how you do this. So we'll think about that a little bit and how it's out in the Bible. So we're going to have providence / sovereignty. We're going to think about how those two relate to one another. Here's how Eileen and I listen to all the stuff that's going on. Broken feet and boots and all kinds of stuff here with people going on. Let me preface where we go by saying there are no accidents in the world from God's point of view. Nothing is accidental. Everything is part of a foreordained plan. Foreordination is a word, common word in the Bible, and it means a pre-thought-out plan. God had a pre-thought-out plan for the whole world from the time Adam and Eve were created. There are no surprises with God. God's never surprised. He's never gone, oh my gosh, I didn't know what happened. He's never perplexed. He's never upset. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that would happen. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to make another plan to make sure that what I want comes out the way I want. That's never happened. This plan is absolute in its authority. It involves, and you were thinking about this last night, right now there's 7 billion people on the planet. And prior to this, I have figures on how many people have lived on planet Earth up until this point of time. I don't know how many billions of people we have passed off in history. But the effects of every one of those lives are under the minute direction and authority of the sovereign God. There are no accidents. I remember this time I was a new Christian. I asked my, at that time, Dave Burnham at the chapel, I said, do you believe in predestination? And he said, here's how it works. A guy falls down his leg, and he goes, oh, well, I'm glad that's over. You know, it was no accident. And I'll never forget the first lady I visited in a nursing home when I came to the church as the pastor. Somebody said, we have this lady, I think her first name was Thelma, she's Miss Fear, in a nursing home down in Youngstown. She's the oldest of the congregation. We need to go visit her. And I went to visit her. I came home and I told Eileen, I said, this lady has her theology right. I forget, she had something go wrong other than just being in a nursing home. Maybe she had a broken leg or something like that. Anyway, she said to me, God broke my legs. Good theology. This was no accident. God broke your legs. So there are no accidents here, no unknowns with God. So here's the definition we want to think about. God has a foreordained plan that he worked out before the foundation of the world that involves all decisions actual. It's okay, let's say Bud is going to buy a new truck. There's no reason to think he's ever going to think about buying a Ford. But suppose he would. You know, there's 7 different trucks out there he buy, so he can make a possible decision, but he will make an actual decision. So God's plan involves all actual decisions, the finalized decision, and all possible decisions and actions that could be done. Right now, that plan is working out with 7 billion people on planet Earth. Every one of them. Minutely under the plan of God. They don't have the foggiest idea that they are. I laugh at this. I read my Bible, I see I've seen it for decades. In the battles of Armageddon, which by the way is not one battle, it's a series of battles, the great army of the East. Well, it's China. It's as obvious as can be. There is no other East. There's a great army of the East that's too innumerable. They have so many people that they need to get rid of some. So let's throw them a war. So all those people in China that want to rule the world, let's put that in their heads. God is working out his sovereign plan with China. Just like we read definitively in Daniel, he worked out his sovereign plan with Babylon. He worked out his sovereign plan with Assyria. He worked out his sovereign plan with all Mesopotamian countries. To go and do Egypt, every one of them, to go and do exactly what he wanted them to do in world affairs. So, first of all, we have to make God a lot bigger than we think he is. He has a plan that involves all things, decisions, actual, and all things and decisions possible for every government and every person on the planet from day one. No evidence. God's never been surprised. He's never had to change plan. Oh my goodness, angels, come here, come here. This went wrong over there. We got to make adjustments. We got to change the machinery. We got to do this and make sure this happens and this happens so we get it. Never happened. Doesn't ever happen. All things possible are in there as well as all things actual. So, with that in mind, there's natural providence, and usually in our family, here's how I think about providence. We have these arguments, which is nothing new. We've been having arguments from day one. So natural providence, general providence, okay? And here's how it usually goes. When we're driving, sir, my goal is to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. That's the goal. We're not driving for anything in between, sightseeing, we're not doing anything. So if I forget something at home and I'm at the end of the driveway, I might go back. It's really questionable whether I will. But if I'm a mile down the road, I am not going back. If I'm 2 miles down the road, I'm definitely not going back. I'm never going back for whatever it was we left back there. Because we left it, that's it, it's over and done, we're on our way, zoom, we're gone. So we'll get delayed for 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And then down the road, and Eileen will go, look at the accident. Someone who might have gotten killed in that accident, we'd have left 5 minutes earlier, we'd have been in that accident. God great in how he worked that out so we would not have that accident. I said, yes, absolutely. God is great that he worked that out, but we could have still on the road. God is still dealing with all traffic that's out there that's on the road. He's still perfectly able to deliver me from an accident while I'm on the road and not miss the 5 minutes back there. It's all part of providence. It's not like one is part of providence and the other is not. They're both part of providence. The general providence of God, where he works out the details of all the lives of all people on the planet, so if I do have an accident, it's no accident. Just go, okay, I'm glad that's over. Glad no one's dead. It was an accident. It was part of the sovereign will of God worked out in his providence, as he's worked out all the details. Now that's natural providence or general providence. Supernatural providence or special providence is when God intervenes and does something that changes natural laws that he's put in order. For instance, when Israel's doing the big battle and he makes the sun stand still. Now that's a biggie. In my brain, that's the biggest one in the Bible. That's bigger than crossing the Red Sea. I mean, the Red Sea is just the Red Sea. God can the Atlantic Ocean if he wants to. But make the sun stop? Its orbit? And how that's going to get all the rest of the planets out of whack? By the way, Eileen has this quip she's been using lately. More whack is on order. We're out of it. Whack has been ordered. So, yeah, you can tell things are really on this providence thing. Supernatural providence or special providence is where God does a miracle. He changes the natural order of things going on to create something that's outside of the laws he's posted. Now, most of our founding fathers were deists. They believed in God, but their belief about God went like this. He's like the giant watchmaker God. He created the world as we know it. He created all the universe, solar system. He created everything, and he woke up, and he put it in motion, and he let it go. And now it runs on its own without any supervision from him. That's just not biblical. So I want us to go to 2 passages this morning and get firmly entrenched in our brain. There are others, but Romans chapter 8, first of all. Actually, passages that we want to look at. Romans 8. It's quoted a lot, but I've found that people quote it loosely. In fact, they usually omit a word. I found that very interesting over the years. Someone will be counseling someone else. They, remember, God made all things work together for good. Let's look at the passage. Romans 8:28. And we know that God, here's the word they omit, causes all things to work together for good to those who love God. Now, no, there's only, well, we won't go there. To those who are called according to his purpose, for whom he foreknew, he also predestined to become conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. So, God is an active causal agent in the outworking of plan. He didn't just wake up the universe and then set it out on its own and let it run on its own. He's actively working to make sure that everything he planned actually comes to fruition and actually happens that way. So let's look at another passage. We're going to look at 3 of them and then think about them for a second. Let's look at Ephesians 1. And we want verse 11. Great section on our salvation here. Every once in a while I go to Ephesians 1 and read the whole chapter just And then I just kind of sigh, go, oh my gosh, I can't understand